The Incident Reports. A Skinwalker story. I need to tell you why I quit my job as a park ranger at Canyon de Chelly National Monument after only 6 weeks. I need to tell you about the incident reports that got me called into my supervisor's office. About the hikers I saw on trails that haven't existed for 15 years. About the faces in those missing persons files that matched perfectly, too perfectly, with the people I'd warned off restricted land. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm a former National Park Service ranger, and I need you to understand something important. If you ever visit Canyon de Chelly and someone on the trail tells you about a shortcut, a hidden viewpoint, or a secret path the rangers don't know about, don't listen. No matter how friendly they seem, no matter how familiar their face looks, because I've learned that not everything walking those canyons is human, even when it looks that way. I started at Canyon de Chelly in late September, right as the tourist season was winding down. It was my first ranger position after graduating from Colorado State, and I was eager, maybe too eager. I'd studied ancestral Pueblo and history, knew the geology, memorized every trail map. I wanted to prove myself. The monument sits entirely within the Navajo Nation, and my supervisor, Rita Tsosi, had been a ranger there for 23 years. She was Navajo, born and raised near Chinle. During my first week, she gave me the standard orientation, visitor safety protocols, trail conditions, how to handle medical emergencies. Then she added something that wasn't in the manual. If you see anyone on the White House Ruins Trail after 4 p.m., radio it in immediately, she said. And whatever you do, don't approach them alone. Why 4 p.m., I asked. Her expression went flat. Because that trail closes at 4 p.m., Marcus. Has for 15 years. Anyone still down there after that isn't lost. The way she said it made my skin crawl. Then what are they? She didn't answer. My first incident happened on a Tuesday. I was doing an afternoon patrol of the South Rim Drive overlooks when I noticed someone standing at the White House Ruins viewpoint. A woman, maybe mid-30s, wearing a bright yellow windbreaker and a hiking pack. She was leaning over the railing, looking down into the canyon. I checked my watch, 4:47 p.m. The last tour group had left at 3:30. The trail into the canyon had been closed since 4 o'clock. "Excuse me, ma'am," I called out, walking over. "The canyon trails are closed for the day. If you hiked down, you'll need to come back tomorrow during operating hours." She turned to face me, and I noticed 2 things immediately. First, her smile was too wide, stretched just a fraction too far across her face. Second, her yellow windbreaker had dark stains across the front that looked like old blood. "Oh, I wasn't down there," she said, her voice pleasant. "I was just enjoying the view. Beautiful, isn't it? The way the light hits the ruins this time of day." She was right. The late afternoon sun made the ancient structures glow amber against the red canyon walls. But something about the way she said it felt rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. "Do you need help getting back to the parking area?" I asked. Her smile widened further. "No need. I know these trails better than anyone. I've been coming here for years and years and years." Then she walked past me, and I caught a scent like wet earth and decay. I filed my first incident report that evening. Incident: visitor on closed trail area. Time: 16:47. Location: White House, ruins overlook. Description: female, 30s, yellow windbreaker, acted disoriented, claimed familiarity with area, possible trespasser. Action taken, verbal warning issued. Rita called me into her office the next morning. She had my report printed out on her desk. She looked at it for a long time before looking at me. "Describe her again," she said quietly. "Mid-30s, Caucasian, yellow windbreaker with some kind of stains on it. Brown hair, I think. She seemed off. Said she'd been visiting for years." Rita opened her desk drawer and pulled out a file folder. Inside were old missing persons flyers, the kind that fade to sepia after being pinned to bulletin boards for too long. She slid one across the desk. Missing. Jennifer Cartwright, 34, last seen, Canyon de Chelly National Monument, June 15th, 2008. The photograph showed a woman in a yellow windbreaker smiling at the camera, the same woman I'd seen yesterday. "That's impossible," I said. "That's her, exactly her." "I know." Rita pulled the flyer back. "Marcus, I need you to listen very carefully. If you see anyone on the trails after closing, you radio me. You don't approach, you don't engage. You call me immediately. Understand?" "Rita, what's going on? Is this some kind of—" "Do you understand?" Her voice was steel. I nodded, my mouth dry. She handed me back my incident report. "Don't file these anymore. Just call me." I should have quit right then, but I didn't. I told myself there was a rational explanation. Maybe the missing woman had been found years ago and the database wasn't updated. Maybe I'd seen a relative. Maybe the photo was just similar. But I couldn't explain the smell or that smile. 3 days later, I saw them again. Not just one person this time, a group of 4. They were hiking single file along the rim trail near Spider Rock Overlook. 2 men, 2 women, all wearing outdated clothing. One guy had on a tie-dye shirt that screamed 1970s. Another wore a members-only jacket. It was 5:15 p.m. The sun was setting, painting the canyon in shades of crimson. "Hey!" I shouted, jogging toward them. "The trails are closed! You need to head back to the parking area!" They stopped walking. All 4 turned to face me in perfect unison, their movements synchronized like marionettes controlled by the same strings. "We're just enjoying the view," they said together. The same words, the exact same inflection. The hair on my neck stood up. "The park is closed," I repeated, my hand moving to my radio. "You need to leave, now." The woman in front, she was wearing a flower print dress that looked decades old, tilted her head at an angle that was just wrong. Too far. Neck bent at an impossible degree. "We've been here longer than you," she said, but her mouth didn't quite match the words. "We know paths you've never seen. Would you like us to show you?" I grabbed my radio. "Rita, this is Marcus at Spider Rock. I've got 4 individuals on the closed trails. I need backup." The 4 figures took a step toward me, then another. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, feet hitting the ground at the exact same moment. Rita's voice crackled through. "Get in your vehicle, Marcus. Right now. Do not engage. I'm on my way." "They're... Now, Marcus!" I backed toward my truck, not taking my eyes off them. They matched my pace, step for step, maintaining the exact same distance. As the light faded, I could see their shadows stretching long across the red earth. Except their shadows didn't match their bodies. The shadows moved differently, jerking and twisting while the people walked smoothly. I reached my truck, fumbled with the door, threw myself inside, and locked it. The four figures stopped at the edge of the parking area, right where the pavement met the dirt trail. They stood there, completely still, watching me with heads tilted at that wrong angle. Then, one by one, they smiled. The same too wide smile I'd seen on the woman in the yellow windbreaker. Rita's truck skidded into the parking lot 12 minutes later, dust billowing behind it. She got out quickly, a bundle of something clutched in her hand. Sage, I realized. Burning sage. The four figures were still standing at the edge of the pavement, motionless as statues. Rita didn't look at them. She walked straight to my truck and tapped on the window. "Come with me, stay close." We got into her vehicle. She put the sage bundle in the cup holder between us, its smoke filling the cabin with a sharp, clean scent. "Don't look at them directly," she said, putting the truck in reverse. "And don't answer if they say anything." As we backed out, I couldn't help it. I glanced at the rearview mirror. All four figures were waving goodbye, their arms moving in perfect synchronization. Their mouths were moving, saying something I couldn't hear. But I could read lips well enough to know they were all saying the same thing. "See you soon, Marcus. See you soon." Back at the ranger station, Rita made coffee with shaking hands. It was the first time I'd seen her rattled. "How long has this been happening?" I asked. She sat down heavily. "Since before I started. The monument was established in 1931, but these canyons have been sacred and dangerous for 1,000 years before that." "Rita, what are they?" She looked at me, her dark eyes tired. "My grandmother would call them Yi Nald Lushi, shapeshifters, skinwalkers, but the name doesn't matter as much as what they do. Which is, they wear the dead, not like wearing a mask, they become them, put on their faces, their mannerisms, their memories, and they use those faces to lure others into the restricted areas, the deep canyons where we can't patrol, where people disappear." My hands were trembling. I set down my coffee. "The woman in the yellow windbreaker, Jennifer Cartwright, disappeared on the White House Trail in 2008. We found her body 3 weeks later in a side canyon. Exposure, the coroner said. But her face..." Rita's voice dropped. "Her face was gone, Marcus, peeled clean off, and her clothes were missing." The coffee turned acidic in my stomach. "Why didn't you warn me?" I asked. "Before I started?" "Would you have believed me?" Rita's smile was bitter. "I tried telling the superintendent 6 years ago. He had me undergo a psychiatric evaluation. The NPS doesn't acknowledge this. Officially, those trails are closed due to erosion concerns and cultural sensitivity. Unofficially..." She pulled out a cardboard box from under her desk. Inside were dozens of incident reports, all filed by different rangers over the years. I recognized the handwriting on some. Rangers I'd met during training who'd transferred out after short stints. "Read them," she said. I did. Ranger J. Martinez, 2019. Observed group of 7 hikers on Mummy Cave Trail at 1830, all wearing clothing from different decades. When approached, they spoke in unison using my grandmother's voice. She died in 1987. Ranger P. Chen, 2016. Witnessed individual climbing cliff face near Standing Cow Ruin at inhuman speed. Subject wore face of local resident Thomas Begay, who died in 1974. Have photos, but supervisor instructed me to delete. Ranger S. Littlefoot, 2012. Entire family of 4 on closed trail. When I called out, they turned around. Their faces were on backwards, eyes in the back of their skulls, still smiling. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the papers. "How do we stop them?" I whispered. Rita's expression was grim. "We don't. We just try to keep people away from them." I started seeing them everywhere after that. A hiker at Sliding Rock Overlook, wearing clothes from the 1960s, asking me about the new visitor center, which had been built in 2003. A man at Antelope House ruins who waved enthusiastically and called me by my father's name. A father I'd never met, who died before I was born. A child at Tunnel Overlook, standing alone at dusk, who asked if I wanted to see where the old rangers sleep. Each time, I radioed Rita. Each time, she told me to leave immediately. Each time, I didn't file a report, but the incidents were escalating. On my 4th week, I found footprints on the White House Trail, dozens of them, all leading down into the canyon. Fresh prints in the sand, made by different shoe sizes, different treads. They all stopped at the same point, about 200 yards down, right where the trail curved out of sight. I stood at the trailhead, staring down into the canyon. The ancient ruins glowed in the late afternoon light, and somewhere in the distance, I heard voices, laughing, talking, the sounds of happy hikers enjoying a beautiful day. But it was 5:30 p.m. The trail had been closed for 90 minutes. I should have walked away. Rita had been clear about the protocol. But something made me take one step onto the trail, then another. The voices grew clearer. I could distinguish individual words now. "Beautiful down here. Can't believe we have it all to ourselves. The ranger said this was a secret spot." My blood went cold. What ranger? I rounded the curve in the trail, and there they were. A family of 5, mother, father, 3 kids ranging from maybe 6 to 12 years old. Real people, alive, wearing modern North Face jackets and carrying expensive hiking gear. And standing with them, pointing further down the canyon, was a park ranger, wearing my uniform, my exact uniform down to the name tag. He turned to look at me, and I was staring at my own face. "Oh, perfect," my doppelganger said, with my voice, my inflection, my smile. "My partner's here. We can show you the really special spots now." The family looked at me, the real me, with friendly, trusting expressions. "2 rangers," the mother said. "We're so lucky. Your colleague here was just telling us about the hidden petroglyphs down canyon." "There are no hidden petroglyphs," I said, my voice shaking. "And he's not a ranger." My double smile widened. "Don't listen to him. He's new, doesn't know all the secret spots yet." "Sir, ma'am," I addressed the parents directly. "You need to come with me. Now. This trail is closed. It's dangerous." The father frowned. "But he said—" "He's not real," I shouted. "Look at his shadow." They all looked down. In the fading light, my double cast a shadow. But it wasn't human. It was elongated, twisted, with too many joints in the wrong places, like a coyote standing on its hind legs. The mother gasped. The youngest child started crying. My doppelganger's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. They went flat, dead, like a shark's eyes. "You're ruining it," he said in my voice. "We were having such a nice time." Then his jaw unhinged, dropping open far wider than any human mouth should, and he screamed, a sound that echoed off the canyon walls, high-pitched and inhuman, like a rabbit being torn apart. "Run!" I screamed at the family. They didn't need to be told twice. The father grabbed the youngest child, and they bolted past me up the trail. My double stood there, mouth still hanging open, impossibly wide, that terrible screaming sound pouring out. And from deeper in the canyon, I heard answering calls. Dozens of them, screaming back in a chorus of stolen voices, men, women, children, all shrieking in that same inhuman frequency that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. I ran. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Not running, walking, steady, rhythmic, synchronized footfalls on the packed earth. Multiple sets, all moving in perfect time. I didn't look back. I pushed the family ahead of me, shouting at them to keep moving, keep climbing. The youngest boy stumbled, and I scooped him up without breaking stride, his weight barely registering through my adrenaline. The screaming stopped. That was worse. The silence that followed was thick and expectant, like the canyon itself was holding its breath. "Almost there," I gasped. The trailhead was 50 yards ahead. I could see the parking area, see the family's rental SUV gleaming in the twilight. 25 yards. Behind us, something spoke in perfect unison. A dozen voices layered over each other, all saying the same words. Marcus Webb, born March 15th, 1999. Marcus Webb, who's afraid of dogs. Marcus Webb, whose mother calls every Sunday at 7 p.m. Marcus Webb, who we're going to wear soon. How did they know? How could they? 10 yards. We burst into the parking lot, and I shoved the family toward their SUV. "Get in! Drive! Don't stop until you're out of the monument!" The father was fumbling with his keys, hands shaking. "What about you?" "Go!" They piled in. The engine roared to life. Tires squealed as they peeled out. I turned back to the trailhead. They were there. Not just my doppelganger, all of them. The woman in the yellow windbreaker, the group of 4 with their synchronized movements, and others I hadn't seen before. Dozens of them, standing at the edge where the trail met the parking lot. They couldn't, or wouldn't, cross onto the pavement. They stood in a perfect line, like soldiers at attention. My double stood at the front. As I watched, his face began to shift. The features blurred, melted, reformed. He became someone else, an older man with a weathered face and kind eyes. "No," I whispered. He smiled with my grandfather's smile, spoke with my grandfather's voice, a voice I knew only from old videos because he died when I was 2. "It's okay, Marcus," he said. "Come down here with us. We've been waiting for you. Your whole family is here, everyone you've ever lost." The figure beside him shifted too, becoming a woman with dark hair and my mother's eyes. "We miss you," she said, but my mother was alive, probably trying to call me for our Sunday chat right now. I backed toward my truck, unable to look away. They cycled through faces like shuffling cards, grandparents I'd never met, a childhood friend who drowned, even my dog Rusty, who died when I was 8, except Rusty's face was stretched over something that stood upright on 2 legs. "We know everything about you," they said in chorus. "Every memory, every fear, every secret. We've been watching, listening, learning, and soon we'll know what it feels like to be you from the inside." My hand found the door handle of my truck. "You can't run from us, Marcus. This is sacred land. We've been here for centuries. We'll be here for centuries more. And eventually, everyone comes down into the canyon." I pulled myself into the truck, slammed the door, locked it with shaking hands. They didn't move. Just stood there, wearing faces of the dead, watching me with eyes that reflected the last rays of sunlight like an animal's. Then, as the sun finally dipped below the canyon rim and darkness fell, they faded back into the shadows. One by one, they stepped backwards into the trail and disappeared, like they'd never been there at all. But I knew better. I sat in my truck until Rita arrived 20 minutes later, the burning sage still clutched in her hand. She found me shaking, staring at the empty trailhead. "The family?" she asked. "Safe. I got them out." My voice sounded hollow, distant. "Rita, they knew everything about me. Things they couldn't possibly know. Private things. Family things." She nodded slowly, like she'd expected this. "They've been watching you since you arrived, learning you. They do that with new rangers. Decide if you're worth taking." "Taking?" "Adding to their collection." She gestured toward the dark canyon. "Every face they wear is someone they've consumed. Body and soul. And they're always looking for more, especially people who work here. People who belong to the land." I looked at her, really looked at her. "How long have they been trying with you?" Her smile was sad. 17 years. They wear my husband sometimes, my daughter, people I've loved. But I know the trick now. I never look too long, never listen too close, and I never, ever go down there after dark. "I can't do this," I said. "I can't come back here." "I know." She didn't try to convince me otherwise. "I'll process your resignation. You'll leave tonight. Pack your things from the staff housing and go." "What about the family? What if they come back?" "They won't. Once you've seen, really seen, you don't come back. They'll tell people they had a weird experience, maybe. But who'd believe them?" Rita's expression was weary. "The monument will stay open, tours will continue, and most people will see exactly what they expect to see. Beautiful canyons and ancient ruins. The others, we do what we can." I left Canyon de Chelly that night. Threw my belongings into my car and drove straight through to Colorado, stopping only for gas. I kept checking my rearview mirror, convinced I'd see my own face in another car, following me. That was 6 months ago. I work at a state park now in the Front Range. Ponderosa pines and mountain meadows, tourist families and picnic areas. Nothing but ordinary nature and ordinary dangers. But sometimes, late at night, I get a call from a blocked number. When I answer, I hear canyon winds, the echo of footsteps on ancient stone, and voices, so many voices, whispering my name. Last week, I made the mistake of looking at the Canyon de Chelly website. They'd posted new photos of the monument. In one picture, a wide shot of the White House ruins, I saw something that made my blood freeze. A figure standing on the trail, too far away to make out clearly, but wearing a park ranger uniform, wearing my face. I reported my credit card stolen yesterday and got new ones with different numbers. I deleted all my social media. I'm considering changing my name. Because I finally understand what Rita tried to tell me. They don't just wear the dead. Sometimes they wear the living too. They become you in another place, walking around, learning your life from the inside. And one day, when they know you completely, when they can mimic every gesture and every thought, They come to collect the original. If you're reading this, if you're planning to visit Canyon de Chelly, please listen to me. Stay on the open trails. Leave before closing time. And if you see a ranger who seems just slightly off, eyes a bit too flat, smile a bit too wide, shadow moving wrong in the sunlight, don't follow them. Don't believe them when they tell you about secret spots or hidden ruins. And for God's sake, don't let them learn your name. Rita called me last week. She's retiring next month after 23 years. She said the sightings have increased, that they're getting bolder, that new rangers never last more than 2 months now. She asked if I'd come back for her retirement party. I told her no, because 3 nights ago, I saw someone standing in my apartment parking lot at 3 a.m. Just standing there, motionless, staring up at my window. They were wearing my park ranger uniform, and they had my face. Thanks for watching. I hope you consider subscribing for weekly videos.